We have heard from day one, and it is the very fiber of the defense against this virus is the social isolation, the social distancing, and the hand washing. It is absolutely the cornerstone of prevention, no doubt about it. The reality of this is, however, this is not realistic, because I don't care who you are, you have to ultimately, you got to go to a store. You have to purchase food. Or if you don't, somebody has to bring it to you. So there is going to be contact. And in terms of how you protect yourself, yesterday, the federal government finally did what made sense to every one of us. They finally recommended that people consider using face masks. You know, it was really bugging the heck out of me that for the longest time, you were being advised, the public was being advised not to use the face mask.
Well,
And
I
it
think
just
that
didn't-
was basically, Dr. Courtney, to prevent shortage in the medical profession. And, you know, they would have been better off to come out and tell us that that was the reason and not give us false information, which they did.
Well, you know, Ed, I think that you're so right. You can't, if you want to, find a face mask to buy, okay? They're not out there. They're all gone. Those that were on the pharmacy shelves, and they're in the places where they need to be. But you should be able to construct your own face mask in the form of a bandana or a scarf. The issue here is, Ed, this does not have to be sterile. All this needs to be is clean and recently washed, because as we discussed last week, by using soap and warm water, the virus is rendered completely impotent and cannot harm you. So
all you're looking for is this barrier. That's all you need.
Barrier. You need to cover the face and mouth. You need to wear eyewear, and you need to put on a hat. And all three of these can be cleaned and kept perfectly fine, not sterile. We don't need sterile. But finally, common sense took over, and the federal government, and they look like they have egg on their face. They look very embarrassed that they advise people not to, and they're scampering and trying to get back their their respect, because for a while there, they really looked bad. So that's my point number one. There's more to do other than sit in a room and wash your hands, as I've always contended. Make sure you cover up whenever contacting people from the outside world, whether you go to it or whether it comes to you. Fair enough, Ed?
Fair and wise.
Okay. Yes. Now, in terms of vitamin C, oral vitamin C is what everyone can, in their own way, be able to do at home, because they can purchase this at any health food store. As we went into great depth last week, this must be, of course, non-corn derived. I'll mention that again, non-GMO, and unfortunately, 99% of the product out there on the shelves is coming from genetically modified corn. Now, I know that sounds crazy to think that the pharmaceutical houses do this, but they absolutely do it, because it's the cheapest form of vitamin C they can get. So on the one hand, they're supposedly protecting our health and promoting health, but they're using a deadly material to do it, and I need the public to understand that. Besides getting non-corn derived vitamin C, coming from usually, by the way, tapioca and soy, the other component of an oral vitamin C must be that it is liposomal, for obvious reasons. Vitamin C, of course, being water soluble, is very poorly absorbed when taken by mouth, and only 3 to 5% of the total milligrams ever gets in the blood. This is why we say liposomal, which is now fat soluble. 100% or thereabout, 97, 98% of whatever you take by mouth will get in the blood. at a minimum, you should be taking around 5,000 a day. But I'm not going to give anybody an upper limit of what they can do. Whatever you want to do, please feel free to go ahead and do it. And this is a great way to prophylax and prevent the virus because as Linus Pauling, we mentioned him last week, who got Nobel Prizes not for vitamin C work, but he got Nobel Prizes for chemistry in 1954, wrote the book Vitamin C Curing the Common Cold.
Dr. Courtney, the vitamin C does what inside the cell?
Well, in a normal cell, it makes it a supercell. Because of the oxygen environment in a normal cell, we get the antioxidant properties of vitamin C. A virus, however, is anoxic or hypoxic and has very little to no oxygen. And it is also taken up by the vitamin C. And inside of that virus, the vitamin C forms intracellular hydrogen peroxide, that's H2O2, which is the same hydrogen peroxide in your medicine cabinet, and that will kill, well, I use the word kill. Virus isn't alive, you can't kill it, but it will render the virus incapable of virulence and render it impotent, as did the hand washing with the warm water and the soap. So vitamin C,
it boosts your immune system as well. We're going to go to a commercial break here. I want everybody to understand that we are practicing social distancing here. Dr. Courtney is calling in remotely. Gary, my producer, and I are sitting behind a glass wall over here, so we're keeping our distance, and we're playing it safe and wise here. You know, we have a caller on the line. It looks like Jesse, and I recognize that number, so I know it's my friend Jessie Klepsik. She has a question for Dr. Courtney when we come back from commercial break. Remember, we don't diagnose or treat here, but we educate, inform, to empower you to be in charge of your own health and wellness.
There is a solution to your health challenge, and one that will allow you to avoid both surgery and prescription medications. Take the time to find out more about the fascinating and miraculous world of stem cells. You are invited to attend a free seminar. Reserve your seat now by calling 724-888-3088. That's 724-888-3088. Become empowered with Dr. Courtney. Call today, 724-888-3088. Tell them Dr. Ed sent you.
Dr. Courtney, and I did disconnect Jesse like I thought. Jesse called in, Dr. Courtney. When that happened, we disconnected you. So her question was, or her comment was, we need to scrub underneath the nails as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, goodness. I hear this all the time. The famous doctor on TV, a gorgeous lady, her name is Dr. Sapphire. She made this point hundreds of times that washing the hands has to be, you have to use friction, and you got to get underneath those fingertips. So it was a very good point that Jesse brought up. I've rarely made it myself. I'm happy to hear that Jesse is on the ball out there and bringing a very important component. Just to do the washing on the outside without getting under those fingernails is an incomplete act, and that virus can still hang out where the soap has not reached, which could easily happen if you didn't just dig to get underneath those nails. So I thank Jesse for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I'm glad we hit it, so we brought that to the public's attention.
Yes. Let's get back now, and thanks for that call, Jesse. Let's get back to talking about IV administration of vitamin C.
That's for sure. Taking the oral is something you can do at home, and you can do it every day. However, it becomes a point of practicality when how high of a dose can you really take orally? Now, depending on your finances, liposomal vitamin C, you could take, I mean, really your body can handle, 15, 20,000 milligrams of the stuff, but that almost becomes impractical. So IV vitamin C has been used in my office for at least 20 years. It is also a cornerstone of viral treatments for the same reason that oral vitamin C is a way to render viruses unable to harm you. IV vitamin C does likewise, but the dose can be extremely helpful here because in my case, the minimum dose I use of vitamin C is 25,000 milligrams given in one setting, which, by the way, of course, bypasses the gut completely. If you're not taking it orally and having it put directly into a vein, then it's 25,000 milligrams that makes it around the body able to do what it can do at a magnitude much higher than the oral could ever achieve.
So when you take oral vitamin C, especially if it's the non-liposomal form, which is generally what everybody has been buying over the years, you end up taking that to bottle tolerance, meaning until you get digestive upset or diarrhea or et cetera. So are there any negative side effects when you do IV vitamin C at that dosage?
Actually, the great news is you remove the gut, you take away all possibility of side effects. Vitamin C, I've been told by scientists, you literally can take your body weight in vitamin C as a water soluble, and it's water soluble. The IV forms are not liposomal. They need not be. They're water soluble. They're just non-corn derived. Absolutely. We can't use anything that came from a GMO source. But 25,000 milligrams is the low end for me. And it's probably the maximum that you can deliver in a peripheral vein without harming the vein. Many of my patients that are immune challenged and immunosuppressed get much more than 25,000 milligrams. They're getting upwards of 50 to 75,000 milligrams, and they need a PICC line, which is called a central line, in order to deliver it, because in a peripheral vein, that would literally necrose the vein, and although it is not harmful to the vein would go away and not be usable. So we have to use a central line, a PICC line, in order to deliver those high doses. And people don't necessarily want to get a PICC line. So using the peripheral vein, the max that the body can handle safely because of the vein, not because of the distribution throughout the body. It's the vein that limits us to 25,000 milligrams. And I would say a good schedule to keep would be probably to do at a minimum 1 IV per week until we get out of this critical time right now that we're in.
And so all anybody has to do is call your office for that, to make an appointment.
Right.
Okay, you want to give your number out very quickly.
Yes, that's 724-942-3002.
All right. I want to move on.
Say that you've heard.
I want to move on, Dr. Courtney, to this Chinese pregnant woman study in the remaining minutes of today's show with you. Well, tell us about what occurred in China with pregnant women and this virus.
Okay, so we keep on hearing from science this word anecdotal, okay? You and I both are very familiar with this term because whenever we don't have scientific method with large studies, it's written off by the scientific community as an anecdotal item. And in that case, it's easily dismissible from the powers that be in the conventional medical world. Well, we saw a clash last week between the conventional medical world and our president, Donald Trump, when Dr. Fauci, a brilliant scientist, don't misunderstand me, he was asked about this combination of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin that seemingly is being used all over the world, and he didn't seem enthusiastic about it at all. In fact, he said those are anecdotal reports and not scientific, whereupon President Trump said, you know what, Tony, by the way, his first name is Tony, you know what, Tony, we got people dropping like flies out there, and so I have a hunch, he said, that's almost a quote, I have a hunch that this might not be a bad idea to pursue, and when you're President Trump and you have a hunch, things happen. What has happened now is that treatment is used everywhere by all doctors. In fact, a study of 6,200 of them reveals that in 37% of the 6,200, that's the number one choice of treatment. I mention that to you because this all started because of an anecdotal report given by a study of 20 patients in France. And now we've got a worldwide treatment that I believe is going to be very helpful. So let's fast forward. We have another anecdotal report.
We have about 2.5 minutes, Dr. Courtney, so.
Okay, this comes from Wuhan, China. 9 women pregnant, delivered, and they were positive for COVID-19, delivered babies which were completely free of COVID-19. And then another study also from Wuhan, 33 women delivered babies. They were COVID positive. Their babies were COVID negative. This led to a scientific assumption, which is now agreed with everybody, and that is the virus cannot survive in an amniotic environment, which is leading to what I hope to be by this Wednesday. The FDA is looking closely at the exosomes that I get from the amnion and allowing them to be used under the EUA, which is the Emergency Use Act, which is part of the FDA and Cosmetic Act of 1938, allowing for medicines to be used in a pandemic. So I hope to reveal more about this next week's show, because the FDA will have ruled by then.
And Dr. Courtney will be with us for the full show next week. Dr. Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to call in and talk to us and inform us and educate us on this important topic. You can look at Dr. Courtney's website, CourtneyMedical.com, and you can actually see our show archived there. So, Dr. Courtney, thanks. Stay well. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Ed. Have a good show.
You
Bye
too.
now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
There is a solution to your health challenge, and one that will allow you to avoid both surgery and prescription medications. Take the time to find out more about the fascinating and miraculous world of stem cells. You are invited to attend a free seminar. Reserve your seat now by calling 724-888-3088. That's 724-888-3088. Become empowered with Dr. Courtney. Call today, 724-888-3088. Tell them Dr. Ed sent you.